Welcome to the AxeCast podcast. Conversations with interesting people from the world of Acadia athletics and more, talking about their lives, successes, and failures. And now let's join hosts Len, Holly, and Eric Cedarberg for the next 15 to 20 minutes as they dive into the life of today's guest.
This week on the AxeCast, we go across the country to a former women's rugby player who found her home at Acadia for several years before hitting the big stage. All the way from Calgary is Janna Slevinsky, who joins us from the class of 2015. Congratulations, Janna.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
I guess I should say class of 2014, really, because you did go play another year. Am I right about that? Is it 14?
2015, and then I did a master's afterwards.
Right on. Well, look, we're going to get into after Acadia, but sort of take us back several years. You're from Alberta. How do you make the decision to come from north of Edmonton, Alberta to little old Wolfville, Nova Scotia?
Well, I was really fortunate to be in Matt Durant's first recruited class. So I had gone on a trip with the U18 Canada program. So that's kind of how Matt got to know who I was as a player, and he reached out. I knew that I wanted to go away for school, but wasn't quite sure where. At the time, the University of Lethbridge was quite dominant in women's rugby, and I had quite a few friends that were going to be attending there. So that was kind of higher up on my list. But unfortunately, I torn my ACL in my last year of high school. So I was kind of coming back from that when I would have been starting my university career. So it was kind of a risk on both my end and Matt Durant's end to recruit somebody who was waiting for ACL surgery. And also, I had no idea if I was going to like Acadia, like being that far away from home. I had never been further east than Montreal. So it was all brand new for me. And
so you literally sort of limped into Acadia because, like you said, was it just several days before the season started, before you got the all clear to train and everything?
Yeah, I think I was leaving to drive to training camp on the 23rd of August or something, and I was cleared for contact on the 21st. So my first tackle after having my knee surgery was in training camp, which was kind of intimidating.
But you know what? It worked out great because you were able to play all 4 seasons at Acadia. Reflect back from 2011 to 2014, your personal experience, not just playing rugby, but being a student at Acadia.
I mean, I'm so grateful that I kind of took that risk of moving away from home, and especially going to a small school. Like, I think I excelled so much more there than I would have in any other university, just with the sheer support from, everybody involved at the university, to the community. It was a pretty magical experience.
What did you take at Acadia, Janna?
I studied kinesiology.
And of course, that will lead a little later in the conversation to where you are now. So your experience as a rugby player at Acadia, you did great things within the conference, but you were recognized nationally as a first team All-Canadian. You as the rugby athlete, talk about your growth in the program.
We got to play with and against some of the best athletes in the country at the time, and it was really it's amazing to reflect back and look at how much we grew as a program and how we were able to compete against NFX, who's won so many national competitions. And by the end of my career, I had 2 years in a row in our AUS championship when we went into overtime with them. So I think that's quite impressive to do. And something that I really respect about Acadia's rugby program is just how gritty all of the players are. They're relentless. They don't stop ever. And I think they're so good at the improvising during play. So things might not go according to plan, but they're always kind of just moving on from that and building up. So it's a great way it was a great place to learn.
You talk about X in those 2 overtime years, and obviously you're sort of just nipping at winning a championship. Then you graduate from Acadia, and the next year the come and win the conference championship. So even though I'm sure a little disappointing you weren't part of the whole thing, but there you must take some solace in the fact that you were part of the growth program of the program.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember watching the game while I was in Calgary, and I was on the phone with one of my old teammates and roommates, and we're both just like there crying because we're so happy that the girls like pulled it off and got the win against X. So it was a huge celebration, even though I wasn't on the team at the time.
You didn't happen to have made it back to Nova Scotia for the hosting of national championship?
I sure did. It was such a great experience. It was like a little reunion for so many of us players. And I mean, not only from the time that I spent there, but we got to meet alumni from like many years before. So it was amazing. And I mean, Acadia did such a great job hosting. It was so well done and a great experience.
The one thing I kind of felt sorry for the group of you is that you missed out on a championship, and then you missed out on a national championship hosting. But I'm so glad that you did say that, you know, part of your experience was being part of that buildup of the program. As Len said, you know, you along with a lot of your teammates are really key in building the program to where it's at now.
Yeah, and I think it's common across so many sports where kind of the adage goes like, leave the jersey better than when you found it. And I think through my years, we were able to do that. And I think they're still continuing to grow the program and to continue to leave the jerseys better than when they found it. So it's kind of about building that legacy up.
And Janna, you are such a modest person, but I'd be remiss for not mentioning in your last year, you know, you're the recipient of the Jean Marsh Female Athlete of the Year Award. That's an outstanding when you consider that half the student athletes at Acadia are female, and there's so many great athletes. Just what did that mean to you?
I mean, it was such an honor. There's so many like women in Acadia sports that did huge things for the community and their sport as well. So that was such an honor to be recognized in that regard.
All right, so you leave Acadia upon graduation in 2014. Then there's a little bit of a gap before you become a student again, and then things really start to roll for you. So just what happened when you left Acadia? What did you decide to do?
So when I left Acadia, I moved to Calgary, and from what I had searched, there's more kinesiology jobs there, and it was a little bit closer to home. And I ended up working at Spinal Cord Injury Alberta for 2 years, and I was an exercise physiologist in that role. So I was really fortunate to find a job in my field with a population that I really enjoyed working with, and that kind of prompted me to want to pursue further education. And then I applied for occupational therapy.
And you would land at Queen's University.
I did, yes. I spent 2 years there.
2 years, and then you're thinking, the career's not quite over yet. What was, you decided to play a 5th year of rugby, obviously. What were you thinking there?
So I was really on the fence on if I was going to play my 5th year at Acadia or save it in case I went back to school. And I had a pretty strong inclination that I was going to be returning to school. So I thought, okay, I'll save that year of eligibility. It's like a great way to get involved with the school and to meet people if I'm moving somewhere new. So I went to Queen's, and I kind of went with the mindset that this will be my last season of playing high-level rugby, and then I'll just kind of play club and recreationally from there. And then I ended up being offered a spot on a tour to England with the national 15s team. So my plans kind of deviated a little bit.
So this is all happening in 2017, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And then in terms of your playing, as all of a sudden, you know, you go to Queen's to play your 5th and final year, and it's anything but, because it starts to morph into opportunities. So talk about playing your first game. I think it's against England, correct?
It is, yeah. So I came off the bench in my first game, and I was absolutely terrified. I mean, I'd never played in a stadium that big. I was so nervous that I was going to be that one person that let the whole team down. That's, I mean, really hard to do in rugby. Yeah, it's just so much fun. Like once you're out there and you kind of get into the flow of things, you forget that there's like people in the stadium or that people are watching back home, and you're just there to play. And I found so much enjoyment in that, and to kind of step up into that next level. And yeah, it was a great opportunity and a great time.
And to do that in 2017, how were you able to balance? You're obviously a student athlete playing rugby, you're in a master's program, and now you're getting this opportunity. How'd you balance it all?
With a lot of stress. It was a very stressful time in my life to try to balance that. And I mean, with my master's program, it's considered a professional program, so they had certain expectations of like attending all of your classes, and we had some more practical components as well. So trying to figure out how to make both work was definitely challenging. And I mean, for that first tour, we were gone for 2 weeks, and the first half I did a great job of studying every night and staying on top of things. But one thing that I underestimated was how much mental effort playing at the international level would be. I mean, everything's just happening so much faster. It's so much more complicated than anything I'd played before. So halfway through, I was like, all right, I'm getting burnt out. I'm here to play rugby. I'm going to focus on that, and I'll figure out school when I get back, which might not be the best advice to give, but it worked for me.
And you know what, to go and play at that level, you have to think that your experience at the university level, and you think back to your years at Acadia, the challenges academically, to compete at a high level, to be involved in the community, so there's and to study and all that, and train and all those things. You have to think that those 4 years plus your year at Queen's helped to prepare you in some way for it.
Oh, absolutely. Like it was almost my norm to go from class to practice and then to the library. Like that was not unusual for me, and that just continued through my master's.
Right on. And then 2018, Female Athlete of the Year, Player of the Year for Canadian Women's 15s. So you get this opportunity in 2017, and a year later, you're celebrated as Player of the Year. What a 12 months for you.
Yeah, that was shocking beyond belief. I was not expecting that whatsoever.
So we're in 2020. Where does Janna go in terms of your career? Is rugby still part of your future?
It is. So we are still planning on going to Rugby World Cup next fall, and that's hosted in New Zealand. So, I mean, with the world the way it is, everything's always changing, but we're still preparing as if that's on the table and that's going to happen. So, I mean, with COVID, a lot of our competitions have been canceled. Actually, all of our competitions for this year. So it looks a little bit different, but like the one nice thing is that with the rugby community in general, it's so supportive. So I can be anywhere in Canada and just reach out to the local club or someone who's connected me with one of their old coaches or something, and I'll find a way to train.
So obviously playing the World Cup is a major goal for you, a major accomplishment when it comes, but the process between now and whenever that happens, Janna, are you a shoo-in to be on that team, or do you have to go through almost like a tryout to be part of that team? How does it work now?
I mean, my mindset has been to earn an invitation on every tour or to every camp leading up to World Cup. And I mean, if I do that and I'm successful there and kind of show the coaches and our staff what I've got, then I don't see why I wouldn't go to World Cup. But I mean, you never know what can happen. So for instance, I broke my foot this summer, so I'm kind of having to build myself up again and get back to training at the level that I was before.
So are there opportunities right now? Are you playing with the club in Calgary? Did you get to play at all during the summer or before you broke your foot, I guess?
Unfortunately not, just because rugby is such a high contact game. It was too difficult to reduce the risk for transferring COVID. So Rugby Alberta has kind of held off on hosting training events or competition. I know that they're looking at opening up some of like smaller games for in the fall, like indoor. So hopefully I'll be able to participate in that.
That's good. Sure.
Yeah.
Janna Slevinsky is like one-stop shopping because she's the athlete, but she's also an occupational therapist. So she breaks her foot, she can sort of repair herself and be ready.
We work around it.
You get a lot of support in terms of like, are you the owner of your, like, how does it work with your position? A lot of flexibility to do what you want to do?
Like my position for work?
Yeah, so in terms of, going away to play in a World Cup or whatever these international competitions would be, do you get a lot of sort of leash to be able to do that?
Yeah, so I was so nervous for interviewing for my first occupational therapy role because of the requirements that I have for taking time off and needing that flexibility. I'm somebody who will be completely honest about it, like from the get-go. Like I don't want to surprise my employer whatsoever, but I actually think that it was my background as an athlete that got me the position. Like just knowing that complacency will never occur for me, or that I'll always be kind of figuring things out as independently as possible and then searching for help. Like those are just characteristics that athletes have. And I'm also so fortunate that my team lead was a former high performance athlete. So she's super understanding, and they're going to work with me to help me pursue both.
That's excellent. Well, it's going to be a lot of fun to sort of watch the journey unfold here leading up to the World Cup, which we hope will happen next year. Before we let you go, Eric always has the tough questions to round out the AxeCast.
And now it's time for Eric's Cut to the Chase 5 questions.
And she knows them in advance, so it'll be easier to deal with.
Hopefully.
Then I'm just going to juggle the order, so that's going to mess you up.
Yes. Yep.
I'm thinking, I know the 3 words that I could describe you, but what are 3 words you hope people will use to describe Janna Slevinsky?
So the first one would be resilient. I mean, I always want to be known as someone who will get back up and continue the fight. The second would be empathetic. I mean, for my role as an OT, that's such an important characteristic to have. And then the third one would just be determined. I think just I get very focused on the goals that I want to achieve and determined to achieve them.
Well, I got 1 out of the 3. I knew you'd say something like empathetic or caring, because that's what I always saw you as a person. What's the most embarrassed you've ever been?
That would have been in the summer of 2019. We were in San Diego for a Super Series competition, and I had such a beautiful opportunity to score a try. I had run probably 50 or 60 meters, but I mean, it's San Diego in the summer, so it's really hot, and I went to shift the ball so I could kind of fend off the defender, but I was so sweaty that the ball just popped out, and we ended up losing that game by 2 points.
Oh.
Yeah.
You didn't make a blooper reel somewhere, did you? Like worst plays of the year.
It should be there. It was horrible.
All right, and our last one. What would you like to improve about yourself? What would be something that you'd want to improve on, if there's anything,
I would like to, I guess, be more forgiving to myself. I find that sometimes I push myself to the very, very brink, and then it's almost like I'll get burnt out and just need some time to recover. So I think having that recognition of like, okay, you've done your best and that's okay. Like, take your break now, don't burn out and then be forced to take one. So
right. You got to. It's good. Anyways, that's all I'm going to do for you. I'm not going to kill you anymore.
That's so nice.
Lenny's going to close off. It was very nice to talk to Janna Slevinsky after 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Time's going by fast.
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah. Listen, this has been fun, and for people maybe who have never met Janna before, I mean, Eric and I have had the opportunity when she was here as a student athlete, but what you see is what you get. And Janna, you are somebody that we're all proud of at Acadia University for your accomplishments, and we can't wait for 2021. And we wish you all the best as you train and plan for it. And we'll be watching from somewhere wherever you get to play, hopefully New Zealand.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, thanks for doing this.
Well, thanks so much. It was nice chatting.